Modern, agile, and digital, the pillars we stand on as an organization are ever-changing. Uncertainty and risk are embedded into our everyday life. But when you see this person, you don't feel like any of these are having a toll on him. In addition to being our CFO, he's leading Robi down the path of digital championship as our acting CEO. Today we have with us Mohammad Riaz Rashid, and we're going to learn all about him. Assalamu alaikum bhaiya, welcome to Candid Talk.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, so bhaiya, today we're going to give the viewers a glimpse into your life. So first of all, we would like to listen to a little bit about your childhood. How was your childhood? Were you a troublemaker or were you just a good kid?
I would say to a great extent a good kid, because I had 4 other siblings, and I was the eldest, so you had to somewhat lead the pack, yeah.
Okay. So you were the responsible one.
Not responsible per se, but I was not probably as mischievous as my other siblings, I would say.
So your parents were always very satisfied with you?
To a great extent, I assume so.
You were always a good student as well?
Probably I did a lot of other things other than proper studies, but I probably scraped through.
Okay, so when it came to making a decision about your career, how did you make that decision? Did you always know you were going to go into finance, or did you have any other interests as well?
No, probably I ended up in finance or commerce by pure accident.
Really?
Yes, I was more a science student.
Okay.
So till my advanced level I finished science, and then I was still following on that track. Then suddenly something happened in my life where I couldn't continue.
Okay.
Then I was left with no option but to look for other options.
Okay.
I just ended up being an accountant.
So what would you say are some of the factors that really affected your career? Like, you knew that these things affected me into, taking this path.
Okay, so as I said, yes, I was on the science stream, pure sciences, but I couldn't progress because of some, I would say, more political influence than anything else, and I lost nearly 1.5 years in between. And then when I got into commerce, I need to catch up, and then I really strived hard and put in a lot of education, put in probably a lot of hours behind my studies, and alhamdulillah, here I am.
It worked out, obviously. Yeah. Okay, so what about your family? Who are there in your family?
So my wife, she's probably an IT professional, but halfway down the career she stopped because the kids were growing up. I have 2 sons. The elder fellow is in the UK now with his wife, and my second fellow is back in Sri Lanka trying to finish his advanced level, which has got postponed several times.
So your wife, does she like staying here in Bangladesh?
First 9 months probably she managed to do something, but I don't know going forward because she's all alone, so it's a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all know that you worked in the Middle East and some of the Far East companies. So how is your experience like working in a Southeast Asia based company? And it must be very difficult to strive, like, with all these different cultural background, because you've worked in so many places, right?
Yeah, I think so if I look at the Middle Eastern culture, it's a very rich culture, built on hierarchy. The previous experience I had was probably in a European setup, which people treat people very differently. And here we also have somewhat of a hierarchical structure, but I think culture is all about embracing it. If you can embrace it, I think you should be able to manage and live into that setup. You should always respect the cultures.
That's absolutely right. So is Robi the first Bangladeshi company you have worked in?
Yes.
Okay, so how is that experience, like coming to Bangladesh and having to manage this different cultural
I think the people are very pleasant,
right.
Very friendly, always willing to help. So that helps a lot, you're like back at home. So that I don't see it as a big challenge or a difference.
Okay, so what about, did you have any cultural shock? I know that, Bangladeshi culture and Sri Lankan culture are kind of similar in a lot of ways, but
right.
Did you face any cultural shock when you came here?
To Bangladesh, no.
No, not really.
But previously I have gone through.
Would you tell us something about
Especially when I went to UAE, that was a bit of a cultural shock, because people look at things very differently.
Okay.
It's a very rich, vibrant culture, so you have to live up there.
Yeah.
Me being a very humble, simple person, sometimes it's difficult to climb that ladder to that
So
level.
would you say that some of those cultural shocks actually affected your
It helped me. I would
or?
say it helped me. It
Okay,
helped me to
so
learn
it helped
fast. Yeah, it helped me. So that's what I said. You must always respect those cultures.
Right.
That's what you should
So
do.
you have worked in telecom companies before. So how is it working in a telecom company in Bangladesh? Is it different from Sri Lanka, or any similarities or something?
One big difference I see is the size. The sheer size of the operation is very big. Even when I got headhunted for this job, what the headhunter said was, it's like 10 times the operation you are in. Are you interested? Because I was actually not looking for a job, and that's the only thing that triggered. Of course, he didn't say where, what, but he said it's an operation bigger than 10 times your operation.
So you know that Robi and Airtel are consumer brands in our country. I think we're like one of the most popular consumer brands. So what do you think that we need in order to further raise our profile? Because Robi and Airtel both have different communication, right? So Airtel is more youth-centric, and Robi is more for the corporate image. So what do you think? Like,
I think it's, for me, I think personally it's good to have two brands, because you can appeal to two segments of the population, and you need to definitely be number one in those two segments. I think that will help the company a lot.
Okay, so we have been making significant capex investment for a number of years. We find many areas of improvement to strengthen our network. So in this backdrop, how do you think we can achieve our aspiration to be the number one in the market?
Okay, so Robi is to an extent doing catch up with the market leader. So that is why you see our investments going in today. But the advantage of that is whatever we are investing today is in the latest technology. So that should help us to challenge market leadership with better technology. Of course, you will see the burn of capex in the few years to come, but I think we should be well set to take and challenge the leadership.
Right. So in Robi, we are already taking a digital path, right? So what do you think is leadership in digital innovation? How do you think we can address this?
I think one of the ways you can really challenge leadership is through innovation. So luckily we have Red Dot, which is predominantly IT company, and I think telcos will evolve to be a player in the ICT sector. So the faster you get there through innovation, yes, that is where you will win, and you will also win fast. That's my thinking.
Okay, so Bhaiya, you are currently acting as both our CEO and our CFO. It must be a very difficult task. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience? Because it was obviously very sudden, so you had to take on this responsibility, and it's a very big responsibility as well. So how was that?
So one of the things I learned in the first 2 weeks is that you need to put in a little bit more time than what you normally put, and also you need to rely on your team on both sides, whether it's on the management side or on the finance time, a lot more than what you would do. And then that's what I do. I rely a lot on people, and of course go back to them and make sure that things are in track. So probably a little bit of more hours and more responsibility delegation helps. Of course it is a challenge. It's not easy to wear those two hats.
Yeah.
I have done that previously in much smaller operations, but this is a big operation, as I said.
What would you say was like the highlight of this experience? Because there must have been something that made you feel very special, because it's not an easy job. So was there anything that made you feel very special about yourself? Like a highlight or something?
I think the interaction with people, that's something that I used to do, but unfortunately the pandemic doesn't help. But this role helped a lot, at least in the digital space. Yes, I did meet a lot of people whom I believe to be different forms and structures. I did meet them, yes.
Okay, so my last question to you, Bhaiya, is that what makes you confident in Robi's prospect for long term?
I think
we're approaching 22 as well.
I think last few years Robi has done exceptionally well. Even this year we have done well. We have grown revenues above GDP. Our profitability, I hope we can nearly double what we did, at least 75% more than what we did last year. So those two are definitely good things. Even our network, we have grown at least by 10% in the 4G space. So I think Robi is well set, and even staff attrition is very low. We are less than or nearly 2% or less than that. So these things all go very well for Robi's future growth. I hope and pray that Robi will continue its momentum.
We hope and pray that as well. So Bhaiya, we're almost at the end of our interview. Is there anything that you would like to say to the audience? Because anything fun about yourself, or any secrets, or anything that we don't know about you?
Okay, so the only thing I would say is be happy, enjoy life. Of course the pandemic has taken us a little away from the human touch, but try to rebuild that, and inshallah everybody should do well in life.
Thank you so much, Bhaiya, for being with us. And that brings us to the end of this interview. It was really great to listen to everything about Riaz Bhaiya, and I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. Thank you for watching.